10, I'm Jennifer Madden. Right now in Freehold, a situation is brewing actually since November regarding the situation of day laborers. Well, what's happening in Freehold right now, many immigration advocates fear could trickle right here to Palisades Park and all across the country. Joining me to talk more about this is Mayor Michael Wilds, who is also a noted immigration lawyer and has actually testified on Capitol Hill about many immigration situations. Mayor, thanks for joining us today on Take 10.
My pleasure.
So can you tell us, first of all, right now, the state of immigration over the last couple of months?
Well, it's been as vigilant and strong as it's been post 9/11, with approximately 1.3 million individuals coming into the United States a day, 340,000 vehicles, and 58,000 shipments. We see the Immigration Service, which is now part of the Homeland Security Department, making all kinds of overtures. Even domestically, we see people, clients, housekeepers traveling and then being nailed by immigration. This is a very strong effort by the Bush administration, not only to remove alien absconders, people who have overstayed, but criminals. But in that net, Jennifer, people are being caught. Innocent, hardworking people that are doing jobs that Americans won't fill and our economy and unions want done.
Now, of course, you're actually referring to the day laborers that we're talking about, that in the situation in Freehold right now, which actually their designated meeting spot is being taken away. Can you talk a little bit about this?
They call those spots, Jennifer, muster zones. Actually, the mayor in January made it unlawful for people to muster or get together in those zones. About 200 people a day would often get together and often then be removed from the area by people looking for day laborers. Ultimately, what ended up happening, Jennifer, is they are now in court. And these folk are litigating and balancing right now the rights of these aliens, these people that don't have status, and ultimately the rights to remain here. We see ultimately a divergence or a paradox, if you would, between the rights of individuals in this country who are actually present in the United States, who have greater rights than people who are from outside, versus the rights of industry and government trying to remove people.
Now, the thing is that in Freehold, I guess, immigration advocates are fearing that what's happening in Freehold is going to trickle even here into Palisades Park and throughout the Chandleton viewing area and all across the country. Could this have like a national impact if Freehold does uphold its status that they want no muster zone?
It has had an extraordinary overflow, and it is a national crisis. We see in Englewood how we have an extraordinary overcrowding problem. Every municipality in Bergen County has made raids and is having not only their code enforcement, their health departments, and the police actually hygiene and all kinds of problems that result. We have fire departments that are overwhelmed and overworked, and good, fine, brave, and finest officers and firefighters getting into all kinds of altercations because in small homes and with overcrowded conditions, things heat up and often burn down. It's very important. This is a national issue, and the president has addressed it recently. Many people wondering ultimately whether or not, like in Freehold, this can be but a Band-Aid put on a wound. When you put a muster zone in a particular corridor of a city, and you're trying to contain it and take it away from a general populace, well, that may have merit. The problem is that this is not a local matter. This is a federal matter. This is the responsibility of the federal government. Mayor Koch in New York and other mayors since then in the tri-state area have refused to police the immigration controls. In fact, they feel obligated to educate children from cross-cultural relationships or people who find themselves here because they want to create good citizens. And ultimately, not only are the children and their parents tax-paying citizens and good, well-intentioned people, but they are right now filling a need in our labor market. And the unions, mind you, are extraordinarily supportive. Years ago, unions felt very threatened and undermined by aliens and by foreigners working on U.S. soil. Now when hotels are raided, we see all of a sudden that the unions are there to protect the interests of the immigrants because they know the work will get done.
Mayor, we're just going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about the immigration situation and the day labor situation throughout the country, so stay tuned for more Take 10.
No one ever planned.
Talking about the issue of immigration here in the United States, and joining me once again is the mayor of Englewood and also an immigration attorney, Michael Wilds. Once again, thanks for joining us on Take 10. So tell us why now, after all this time, that situations like in Freehold are coming up with the day laborers. Why is it becoming such a heated issue?
We have an election coming up, and every president in the last 2 decades before an election has made an immigration overture. There is a tremendous amount of support that you can get from the Latino, Hispanic communities and such in Texas and Phoenix and throughout the United States. We saw the president deliver a very nice and kind speech, but there was no real teeth. We have no sense whether or not the president is actually going to stand, lobby Congress, and actually no details were presented in the suggestions that he have. But this is a very contentious issue. With having seen terrorists and terrorism fought on U.S. soil, knowing that there was for years insufficient screening, that people can stay and overstay, that there is no departure control. We are one of the only nations in the world which did not have a departure control. The intelligence value of how long a person stayed, did they go to Disney World like they were told, is extraordinarily important. Do foreign students actually stay here, and are they studying studies that may have an impact on national security? Having structural integrity and engineering skills and flight school achievements, if we had that intelligence years ago, we could have averted these attacks. And that's why I and a few others marched on Capitol Hill in the early 1990s. We had seen the rooting of terrorism, that there were students, diplomats, and clerics that were rooting themselves here. So this debate, Jennifer, comes out in Freehold when people see foreigners availing themselves here not only of monies and privileges, but we say, hey, if they got in here, how come the bad guys can't get in here? Maybe the next set of terrorists will come from Mexico. 44% of all the people that overstay in this country hail from Mexico.
Now, obviously we're all concerned about terrorism and the immigration situation, but do you believe that the mayor of Freehold should have handled it differently instead of taking away that muster zone?
The job of a mayor, I think fundamentally, and again, I'm only 1 week into my administration, is to bridge the divide in the community, to bring people together. What he did was extraordinarily divisive. Again, this is a federal matter. No mayor or local official should be touching an immigration control. This belongs to the federal government. What he should have done is done what most people are doing, and that is expose this issue. Lobby Trenton and lobby Washington to make sure that monies come from their elected officials. Where are our congressmen? Where are our senators on these matters? These things are filling over. There isn't a community in Bergen County that doesn't feel this and see this. And ultimately it has an effect, as I said before, on hygiene, on crime, overcrowded situations, fire and police, and all kinds of other services that are getting drained. I thought the mayor handled it improperly and created more division. At the same time, while we're dealing with this, Jennifer, we have to make sure that we reach out to the immigrant communities. Do you have enough people speaking Spanish, Korean, and all the other languages that we have in this beautiful diversity that we have in this county? And is there a way for us to ameliorate these plans? The president's proposals are but a step in the right direction, but I think is an empty shoe.
Now, if the situation doesn't improve, if it isn't addressed, do you see it getting worse in the future?
This is a problem that's growing. There are millions upon millions of people that are here illegally. They are earning cash and they are not paying their taxes. There is a great interest that we have not only on economic reasons to put these people on the tax ledgers and rolls, but to make sure that we create another group of citizens, reminding ourselves, of course, that we are a country built in the backs of immigrants. How are we fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan and all over the world for liberties when we would treat people with such blatant disrespect? At the same time, reminding ourselves that this is a very common sense approach. We have to have controls. And I don't think we have to be politically correct with certain nations, particularly in the Middle East, where we know that there's been a history of either financing terrorism or funneling people through the United States.
We just have to keep an eye on everyone, really.
Absolutely.
Mayor Michael Wilds of Englewood, thanks for joining us today and talking about this situation.
A very cheery subject, but I hope things improve.
Thank you very much, and
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us as well. Stay tuned for more Channel 10 News, more sports and weather coming up next.